鳥発。
Salute to Big Discussion 76. We had a conversation about a variety of things, and he even gave me a fashion tip, which I'm trying out, good sir. That said, we spoke about the issue of the day, which is the difficulty in finding a mate, and it led him to this story, which he says in a very diplomatic manner.
I have a cousin who I am somewhat close with, and when I was home, maybe about 2 years ago, or maybe in the last year, she brought up Passport Bros. Okay, I wasn't talking about it, but she brought it up with a bit of angst and a bit of heartburn and a bit of those passport, those guys. And it was interesting because based upon her station in life, I'll just say that without telling all of her business, but the number of children she has and just her marital status, which she's not married. It was interesting because I thought to myself, okay, well, men of means, and this is not a shade at my cousin, but men of means who would be able to do that, I don't know that you would show up on their, I'm saying this to myself, okay? I don't know that you would show up on their radar, but the perception of it, as we'll discuss, is who are you? Who do you think you are to go across the ocean or to the Caribbean to find somebody?
Big Discussion 76 is quite diplomatic in the way he's telling his story, but we understand that the modern dating landscape is untenable. On the one hand, there's a large group of men that are dusty, that aren't even good enough to really break into the dating market. But on the other hand, we know that there are a lot of young ladies who, in an unprecedented fashion, are having physical relationships with guys that they're not committed to. And one thing is for certain for those young ladies: hearts are getting cooked.
Chicken hearts.
In the time of a weekend, it's very difficult to beat a 100 yen stick of yakitori, which of course means if you are coming back from a night of partying with your friends or coworkers, you can go to the stall outside that's still open and get 6 or 7 freshly grilled sticks of the meat/vegetable of your delight. And this ranges, of course, from chicken, beef, pork, the ones that we're familiar to scallops, okra, bacon-wrapped asparagus, and one of my newfound favorites, chicken hearts. If you're like me, when I first witnessed the preparation of chicken hearts, as an American, you're probably thinking, I don't see how people can even eat this, much less find it delicious. But as you should always do when you go to other places and experience new cultures, you should try things that may not be to your liking, because quite simply put, our chicken hearts are probably just ground up in a sausage or a hot dog, and we don't even know we're eating chicken hearts, as opposed to in Asia where they're freshly skewering the chicken hearts and covering them with salt and pepper or a sauce and grilling them to taste right in front of your face. And what I've come to learn is that it is one of the more delicious forms of yakitori, especially if you can have it with an ice cold kirin. And when you witness the cooking of a variety of yakitori, including chicken hearts, one thing you understand is that new can be delicious if it's cooked right.
I get a picture of you?
I am athlete on the go.
Remember that they were saying that you stopped messing with him at one point because of 50-50?
Is there water? Where did the water go?
What is the question?
Did who?
50-50. Remember they were saying that you said he was cheap, or they were saying that you were...
Oh, the splitting the bills.
The splitting 50-50, yeah, the 50-50.
Yeah.
Remember, what was the tea on that?
Yeah, do I look like anybody that would split anything?
So you guys broke up at that point because...
No, this is the question. Do I look like I would go 50-50 on bills?
No.
Okay. So yeah, that was ridiculous.
Salute to Guy Incognito for bringing this to my attention. This is Kayla Nicole on the field after the championship was decided and the Eagles won. She is there on a press credential from I Am Athlete, and this is part of the time that she was on the field covering the game, I imagine. what is clear to me is that she is taking glee in the fact that one of the teams won the game. Now, one could say that she might have been an Eagles fan, but it's probably more likely that she's celebrating the fact that the man that she probably wanted to marry in Travis Kelsey lost to the Eagles. And as a person on the field with a press credential, she's celebrating this by blowing confetti. Looks like a cooked heart to me.
Why are you crying over a man? Why is he not crying over you? What are you crying about? Did he die yet?
We listen, but we don't judge. I had 2 abortions this year. We listen, but we don't judge.
If this is you, you better lower your tone when you talking to me.
So I guess you could say that's a superstition.
That is your superstition net one.
Here's where I should get the question.
Big dog! Big dog, how does it feel to be a champ?
Women want other women's life, especially on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
You popping, you looking good, your life, you seem happy. You know, you got it going on, you're traveling, everybody, you all over the blogs and stuff. Like, they want that. They want the attention. So if they feel like it's a behind it, oh, he's getting fucked.
What's something you'll never forget about your ex?
Oh, he had a little.
Oh!
Well, I'll never forget that. I put up with that for 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Put up with little meat for 2 years?
Yup.
You had to cut him off?
Yup.
You're not your no more?
He never made me.
I had like 8 abortions in total. We listen, but we don't judge.
It does break my heart that if you're sharing you had an abortion, that there could be a child, I don't know how old they'd be, 10 years old today, who would be cheering you on saying, go get him, Mom, you got this.
I can promise you that would not be the case, because I can almost promise you that would not be the case, because I say again, I'm in a domestic violence shelter. I've got a dog I can barely take care of. You're you're expecting me to sit here and let you tell me how I'm supposed to feel. You're trying to scare me.
I'm not telling you how to feel.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I'm not telling you how to feel.
With your statistics,
but I am telling you that your baby,
your statistics and your information, with your statistic and your information,
your baby had a right to live.
You are completely wrong. Because yes,
and I wish someone had been helping you more.
Listen,
that's the other thing.
Listen, but you weren't there. That's just
help.
it. Everybody always likes to say, "Oh, keep the baby, give it up for adoption." I know what our foster care system is like.
But when you
can't tell me I would have a child cheering me on.
When you place a child for adoption,
hold on. You're not going to speak. You don't get to speak for my child. You don't get to speak for my child. Let's start right there.
As a guy in my 40s, I've had the opportunity since the 1990s to see the effect that not just the internet, but specifically dating apps and social media have had on young ladies in an age where they're free to pursue the relationships that they want to physically. Not only are they able to have these relationships physically, but they're essentially able to wait for, be with undercover, any permutation that you wish to think of at the freedom of their behest. But what's not spoken about is the kind of mental and emotional anguish that comes down the road. Because a reoccurring thing that you're starting to see, not in just this video, but in just social media, is that a lot of young ladies are carrying a lot of pain, a lot of anguish, a lot of hurt that comes from the fallout of not just the physical relationships. Well, what happens when you have to make decisions after the physical relationships, and what comes to be because of them?
You don't get to speak for my child saying, "Oh, mommy would be cheering you on," or everything like that. You don't fucking know that. You don't know that at all. You don't know what my child would be. I may not even have my child because I was so unfit at the time. Drug addiction, sex work, everything like that. Yes, I'm a proud pro-ho. That is exactly what I do. But you're telling me how my child would feel. And what gives you the right? What gives you the right? What gives you the right?
What's sad about seeing clips like this is that this young lady has a lot of trauma. And even though she's carrying that trauma, she's still engaging in acts that can create children. And she might be on the far end of the spectrum, but this is happening for a lot of young ladies that are carrying the trauma of not having the relationship they wanted to have with the guy they wanted to have it with, and them trying to essentially find a way to release it. And quite often that release is to blame all men, because the guy that they wanted or the guy that they're trying to be with essentially just had a good time with them. This trauma is still latent in the dating pool. As a matter of fact, it seems to be growing. And so it gives guys that are not necessarily invested in dating pool or having difficulty even getting into the dating pool to want to just avoid it, because many young ladies, their hearts are consumed. They have been cooked, burned, and they are not in the position to love a guy on a sound footing.
But if you look at it logically, right, like, isn't the guy who you like are viewing like, oh, this guy could be like long-term relationship potential, he has to wait for sex, but the guy who's maybe going to treat you poorly, who's a jerk boy, he hits right away?
Maybe
like, that's what's confusing.
Because she doesn't want him to stay around.
You said, well, they sleep with the men that they don't like. Didn't you say that?
I don't want for a long-term relationship. Maybe
because why?
Maybe he's highly desirable. Like, maybe he's highly attractive, or he has a lot of money. He has a lot of women chasing after him, so you already know he's not really looking to commit to anyone. But
So
he's
you're
attractive.
settling?
Like, I think when women,
You're settling?
No, sometimes like he's just hot and you just.
Well, you're not
he's just
settling.
hot,
I
so
think
why
when
not?
women
Well, hang on. How are you not settling?
I think
You
when
say,
women sleep
wait,
around, they
wait.
usually go for men who are of like a higher status and like more attractive, more money, whatever, because they know that
So you're
those men are
settling.
just not going to stick around because they have more options.
I know that this whole thing, it's creating feelings of what, we're not good enough anymore, or you think you're better than us, or you think you're going to find something better wherever you're going. And then the question, that you hear all the, well, they're just going to find women who are poor, who don't have any power. But I forgot to say that in the monologue, everyone, before I brought PassportOG up here. So, well, I'm sure we're going to get to some element of all of those.
Mm-hmm. As a kid of the late 80s and the early 90s, shout out to Rugby Jesus, he's one as well, it's difficult for me to wrap my head around the kind of behavior I'm seeing from young ladies. Young ladies are more tattooed, more pierced, more naked, more openly willing to speak of private issues in public, even willing to speak of the number of children they did not allow come to term, and seeing that as a form of womanly power. And it is almost as if I'm seeing women become a new version of women that is not the type of woman that you'd want to buy flowers for or think about writing a love poem for Valentine's Day. Instead, I'm seeing a larger and larger group of young ladies that are emotionally hurt. Because I know that at the very core of women's nature, they're not built to speak openly in public about how big their ex-boyfriend's thing was, or speaking openly of how many of their children they decided not to carry to term. There is some heartbreak in there. And much of the messaging for these young ladies was, do what you want, everything's going to be okay. But what we're starting to see now is that many of these young ladies aren't okay. And they put on a mask that they are, but when you think about it, the emotional center, their hearts, they're cooked, and they don't have the ability to be emotionally bonding or emotionally warm to a guy other than the guy that they deem as that elite status guy that they really want. And when he says no to them, or he carries them on a string and then lets them go, it is the fault of all men that she couldn't get the man that she wanted. I don't know what place it's going to, but the worst thing that can happen in this dating market is for a well-meaning guy who she doesn't want in the first place to try to be the one that heals her heart. Because in the end, we all know who's going to get cooked. It's the guy that tried to care for the girl whose heart was already cooked by the guy that she really wanted. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you next video. Take care.